Yeah, under.
Sure. Thanks, Stephen.
You know, they were.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's, there we go. Hide self for you, I think. It's not spreading. Oh, actually it has the HDMI port.
He wants to kick on that came on.
I get the door only.
You're there. Yeah. So we have
Well,
run.
but she could see and hear us.
Okay. Okay.
We can go.
Yeah.
Okay, we are live.
Should put it in.
They're ready.
All the hearing of the Archaeological Review Committee of June 1st, 2023 order. And you have the roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Eck,
Present.
Member Pierce,
Present.
Member Bechtel,
Present.
Member Wands. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. We have the report and one format for the other. Any changes to the agenda? Oh, so that's fine. Go back there.
Look at
No changes to the agenda, Chair.
I do actually have a couple of questions about the agenda. I think at the last meeting, someone recommended putting new business before old, which I thought was a really good idea because the old ones would tend to drag on for a long time. We don't have them this time, but I'd like to see that change next time if everybody concurs.
Or if it is the pleasure of the committee, then you can reorganize it and vote on that as well.
Well, we don't have the old business this time, so it's a point, but.
Yeah.
It just came to us as a suggestion, and I said it was a good idea, and that was the end of the discussion. Nobody asked for a vote, nobody asked for nothing, so we just assumed it was gonna happen.
Oh, okay, so it will happen next time, most definitely. Thank you for reminding me.
All right, the next item I have is, at the last meeting, we postponed, sorry, I don't have the case number, but it was 6315 St. Francis Cathedral School. We postponed it to this meeting, but I don't see it on the agenda. It failed to make the changes in time, or correct? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then finally, on case 6248, we granted conditional approval pending some changes to the text with the city to grant administrative approval if that happened. Did it happen?
Which
Case.
what's the title?
815 East Palace.
815 East Palace. Yeah, they I don't believe we received a resubmission on that.
Okay, we haven't.
We haven't, yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
Oh, 815 East Palace, the monitoring plan. That's
Right.
correct. We did receive that.
Okay.
Before the 14th, I believe it was. Yes.
Right. And so you were satisfied that they made the changes requested?
Yes.
Very good. Thanks.
And to follow up on Member Pierce on that one, we had asked for some documentation that showed administrative approvals to come to us.
It's just a report.
That's the 215.
Literally, just the form would be sufficient. Just
Oh, okay.
that we've reached closure and we no longer have to think about
Okay, we can do that
We'll do that.
for sure.
Actually, there was a form for administrative approval for something else at the end of the packet, or at least my copy, but it wasn't this case, it was something else.
I believe it was what
Yeah,
the.
that sounds right.
That's.
The 215 Marcy Street.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's kind of emergency, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, the presence of that one made me wonder about this other case that we had asked for changes. Anyway, I've taken up enough time, so.
Well, we'll figure it out how we format the letter and everything, because for HBird, we're fully operational on our InterGov program. For ARC, we are, still working on that. So we'll definitely either have a letter stating that everything has been satisfied, or we'll have some sort of printout similar to the one that you saw.
Wonderful.
So today we have an agenda before us.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agenda for the meeting of November.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel,
Yes.
member Pierce,
Yes.
member Wands.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Next is approval of minutes for April 6th, 2023. Committee. Any observations?
Yeah, I have a few.
Member Pierce.
Okay, beginning on the, I guess it's the second page of the minutes. Talking about others present, I noticed that Paul's name was not there, although he was definitely at the last meeting.
Is he under staff? Most under staff, maybe.
I don't see him anywhere under.
Okay.
Members present.
Yeah, because you're under.
You, for instance,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
stenographer, right?
Okay,
That's
Yeah, we'll
right.
fix
To be
that.
fair, he did come in a split second late and maybe it just fell through the cracks.
yeah, I imagine he'll be present most of these meetings going forward.
All right, the next one is on, page 8. Is the, second full paragraph, only one sentence. It reads, Chair Eck, how short it was. Clearly, there's missing words there. I don't know what those missing words are, but that's not a sentence,
That's not a sentence.
unless you were calling member Eck short, which
I don't think he is.
In some,
I think. I think it's supposed to be, how short was it?
Oh. A question, how short?
Yeah, based on my response.
so with that transposition, we'll be happy.
Next item is on page 14. The second line there under committee discussion. Referencing case 6597. Member Pierce moved approved with requested additional material added. I think it's just missing the word "to," I think "to" of them.
We for approval.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we move forward. Good. And then just a couple more lines down, over number 5. There are 2 words that run together, request approval. It's all one string. On page 16, right above administrative matters and communications, there are 3 single sentences there. Mr. Winter confirmed that there will be a May 4th meeting. Ms. Lamboy said that she was going to get Bechtel appointed. And then finally, Ms. Rivera Avila said that she would keep the committee apprised. Those seem like they are all administrative matters and communications, so they're above where they should be.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
They're in the previous case rather than under.
Rather, yeah.
Communication. And.
Unfortunately, we have Miss Bechtel with us today.
Yes, right. That's all I have.
Well, thank you for reading them. Sometimes I don't even people read them, but thank you.
Other remember?
I only have one on page 16. The second to last paragraph, last sentence is more than there's an end.
Oh, yeah, they,
More than as opposed to more than. Member Bechtel, any observations about the minutes? Other than the fact that I talked too much, we can entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the meeting, the minutes of the meeting of April 6, 2023 with the requested correction.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote please.
Member Bechtel,
Do I concur since I wasn't here?
Abstain.
Yeah. Abstain.
okay,
Because she wasn't present, she doesn't know the
Then
record.
jump in.
Right. right,
Yeah.
okay, good. Okay, member Pierce,
Aye.
member Wands,
Aye.
Chair X.
Aye.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Next is matters from the floor. We have some representatives here. We may have someone in attendance online.
Just no call.
Anyone who needs to raise a matter from the floor, signify by raising your hand here or doing the digital thing there.
We have no.
I don't know if it's working because someone's trying to put like Evan's numbers and stuff. You can't seem to get the same link to work.
Nicole's on okay. She said she can hear us fine. Let's see. And I don't have any other participants or attendees.
And we don't have to let people in this meeting like we do others, do we? I don't think it's configured that way, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
hearing none matters from the floor. We're skipping over old business in the spirit of earlier discussion and the fact that there is none. To new business. Case number 2023-6816. Evan Sternberg, archaeologist with Chronicle Heritage, requests to be listed on the City of Santa Fe list of approved archaeologists and historians for the River and Trails and Suburban Archaeological Review Districts. And I understand we cannot figure out how to attend via Zoom. So we can't ask him to be sworn in and tell us anything he might feel needs to tell us.
We can put him on a speaker on a phone. Did you want,
Call him.
yeah, and then he can be sworn in and then he can have his case heard.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on speaker for everyone. Okay, all right.
And if you can turn it up as loud as possible. Okay, good.
Welcome, Evan. No problem. Do you wish to offer anything in support of your application? If so, you're gonna need to be sworn in.
I believe I've submitted everything I have.
Then I would say you do not need to be sworn in. Thank you. You'll just listen to the discussion.
Okay, great.
Staff report, thank you.
Staff report.
Committee, any observations? No, none. Member Pierce?
Well, just the observation that, Mr. Sternberg does not have the required MA, so therefore we're considering equivalent experience. But it's pretty lengthy chart, so I'm comfortable with it.
Thank you for that. Number one.
That was, I have been, and it's for the further consultants.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said I had also been looking at that, but it's for only River Central and suburban.
Thank you.
Rebecca,
Do you have any comments?
I don't have any questions or comments. We can entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that in case 6815, we approve listing of Kevin Sternberg on the city list for the suburban and urban trails only.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel,
Yes.
member Pierce.
Aye.
Member Wong.
Aye.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Case number 2023-6860. Christopher Carlson, archaeologist with NV5, requests to be listed in the city of Santa Fe list of approved archaeologists and historians for the river trails and suburban archaeological review district. And I'm here today. Thank you. And once again, we have the staff report. I forgot to ask if you had anything to add to the staff report.
Chair, there was just one thing that I noticed in the application, was that it was stated that being SOI qualified. But I don't believe without a master's degree, you could be SOI qualified. So that was just one thing I notified the applicant of. But for what they're looking for the river and trails and suburban archaeological review districts, I defer to the ARC.
Thank you. Is Carlson here? Yes. Good. Is there anything you wish to offer in support? If so, you'll have to be sworn in.
I believe I've submitted everything I need to. I'm also working with WSP as of last Friday and was hoping to roll them into this permitting process as well.
Okay, I think maybe we should swear in.
Okay, so do you swear under the penalty of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Carlson, 3901 Montgomery Boulevard Northeast. Application number 87109.
Thank you.
So with respect to mentioning another company, it doesn't matter. This is you. You own it. You can, if you're approved, you can do work as you. You don't have to be affiliated with either NV5 or ASB. Okay. But is there anything else you'd like?
Not unless you've got questions.
All right. Thank you. Committee, Rebecca.
I'm qualified to qualify archaeologist. So, I mean, I can look at the work and say that looks great, but I'm an architect.
If questions come up, you rely on you to ask those questions.
Yeah, but for an archaeologist, I don't really have a question. You know, it's great to me. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
My comment.
Number one.
I have questions about the Secretary of Interior qualified archaeologists without a master's degree. And I also had questions about 3+ years of experience, but the charter experience shows about 7 years.
I've done a lot of work out of states. They're out of New Mexico.
Right.
A lot of experience.
Right, I'm not questioning. You have to have a master's degree to be Secretary of the Interior qualified. So having that in the first line of leadership is a little misrepresented.
Yeah, I wish that were true.
And then
It's not for historians and historic architects, it's the BA only.
no,
Have they changed? Oh, well, at least I can see.
I pulled up all the regs last
Yeah.
night.
Oh.
Just to check. Yeah, so even with your out of state stuff, you only on your charter experience at maybe 1 month. goes out to about 7 years plus. Just in terms of consistency, we might want to either say this is a subset, because with your project experience and everything, there was no way to look and see who you worked for or add up the years or anything. I felt stuck on how many years, but it's a little. And then your writing sample could be just.
Thank you. Member Pierce?
Well, no, just the same observation in the previous case, with the BA only, so we're looking at equivalent experience. But yeah, I tend to believe that 30 years of experience. In fact, I think you and I worked together briefly. I was trying to remember when, it was 20 years ago, or 2003. Yeah, no issues here. I think he's more than qualified for the exception.
Right, once I started digging through things, but when I looked at the CV and the charter experience and then what was presented, none of it gelled, so.
That is difficult to list 30 years plus, even in a short one.
And there's no, just to caveat it, like just, you know, this is selected, blah, blah, whatever, but.
Remember, that these charts of experience are normally required for state approval, be monitored.
Right.
So we ask for the same thing with an emphasis on what has been done in Santa Fe. And
Thank you.
it would be a standard part expected of every app.
And that's why you couldn't get to the 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have no questions, comments. We can formulate a motion.
Chair, in case 6860, I move that we approve Christopher Carlson for lifting on the rivers and trails and the archaeology.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Aye.
Member Wands?
Aye.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Case number 2023-6861. PRC, agent for PNM, requests approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for the trench excavation and installation of 250 feet of subsurface electrical lines at 207 Old Santa Fe Trail in the historic downtown archaeological review district. Thank you for the staff report. Mrs. Duran, anything to add to that? Chair, no, sir. Thank you. You're here. You should come to the table, get sworn in.
If you swear under the penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Tony Toni, 4 GOAR, 532 Carlisle Northeast, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87106.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony, the floor is yours. Do you feel there's anything you need to add?
No.
Many members, we start with member Pierce.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. It's on page 25 of the report. It's section 4.2 basic monitoring method. I believe in the sentence that reads photograph of Our Lady of Light chapel. And then there's a friend, and then SR will be taken prior to any ground serving activities.
Oh,
Period. Looks like an incomplete sentence as well.
I didn't put the SR number there, and then I was gonna have another friend, so.
Yeah, there's no clothing for him. That probably was the good one to add. And then the only other thing I had, oh, that's the very next sentence reads, any soil within the project area will be inspected prior to work I assume that means that you're gonna survey any place
Yeah.
where there's visible.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
very good. Okay,
Cause there, it's mainly parking lot, but if there's any soil, I'll go and check it out for.
We often ask for that, so it's always good to state it explicitly, so we don't have to go through the motion of doing so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Derek. Number one.
My only comment was, I noticed that you said it was, you didn't anticipate much.
I don't know, I mean.
I would suggest anticipating something.
Okay, it's kind of a.
There's structural reasons.
Okay.
So I do have a few questions. One is, do we, when you do a transformer pad that's 7 feet by 8 feet? Like, how tall is it? I mean, do we have to, does this committee get involved in like transformer pads? Like what's coming after your work?
That is from P&M directly, I don't. But
Let me try to clarify, it's the ground disturbance associated with the installation of said
That we're talking
transformer pad.
about. Okay.
If it's 80 feet high or 8 centimeters high,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So I would have liked to have had a lot more information about the buildings that used to be there. That you're going right through a building.
that is what I could find. That was what I could find. I mean, I can try to find more stuff, but.
Well, there are aerial photographs, there's more Sanborn maps.
Okay.
You can find more information about that building. That was there, that you're going to find underneath that asphalt.
Okay.
So I think that there should be more there. To anticipate what you might find.
Yeah.
I think that was all.
Okay. Definitely have to feedback guy. The description of the project could benefit for some more information, as in at what and where descriptively does it start, connecting whatever exists to wherever this transformer is going to end up being. Description helps to understand all details of what might become relevant.
Okay.
Skip over the next slide. Page 5. Purpose of monitoring. Second sentence. I would rewrite that sentence because it is certain you are going to find something.
Okay.
Page 7. The parenthetical references to the genus and species of the animal you're referring to. It's Bison antiquus, not a, and it is Mammuthus, not mammoth.
Okay.
Happened to notice those editorial things on the way by. The meat of the matter, though, is that previous project within 500 meters from project area is missing this gentleman's report. I did testing on this very piece of dirt.
Oh, okay.
Not so very long ago, and so there is a Winters 2022 report, and it does have an inverse number, but I could not see it on the map survey. In this case, you would be forced to rely on the city staff as to what had already happened on that piece of property.
Okay.
So it's always good to check with city staff as to previous research, because ARMS doesn't have everything.
And when we do, there can be a delay in getting it for 2022.
I looked at the site at least, and it says the engineering in progress, so I don't know what they actually.
And that's important because the proposed alignment of your trench is going to intersect at least 2, if not all 4 of the trenches that are excavated. And you're going to intersect at least 2, if not more, foundation alignments.
Okay.
Features that he recorded. So it'd be good for you to know all about that before you start.
Right, yeah.
So if he can be available upon and hand you a copy, then we'll be in tall copy.
David, is this the Lunar Chapel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was.
So sort of corollary to that and what member 1 said earlier, that amongst your deliverables on page 29, there's going to be a site update for the LA number that was given to the important remains in that area as already updated by Ron and his work. So
Okay,
they're going to be the second update.
okay,
Judging by the fiction of alignments, you have every chance of being inside the foundation of that building. Not
Okay.
grazing the edge of it, which is where we're going to pop into it.
okay,
And then there are potentially earlier structures. So do look at all the semblance all the way back and at earlier maps and be surprised.
well, you never can tell, I mean, you never can tell in downtown Santa Fe.
Yeah. Another thing. All right, that is all.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
You mentioned the Analco Cemetery, and I was wondering if you could point out to me where it is on the map.
That's the 1/6.
Let me just jump in here. This is a misplat. This cemetery in question is nowhere near where the dot is, and which led her to first discuss it. The cemetery in question is the PERA parking lot.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Well, I know about that one, but I don't know about this other one.
400 meters away.
Yeah.
And it's just a conflation of things in the records that led everybody down a primrose path.
Did you think that the sisters buried their dead also behind the St. Michael's College? Yeah.
I suspect that the sisters buried people on this very piece of property, just at the opposite corner. And they may or may not have been moved. And as we have sadly learned, they never moved everything. So if we were the opposite corner of the block, we'd be worried, but I'm not so worried right now.
Thank you.
But got language to cover that in the event that it happens.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can craft a motion that might be able to make. I move in a case 6861 that we approve the archaeological monitoring plan with the request for all the corrections to the text, and especially the additional historical research be done, including but not limited to accessing Mr. Winter's report and the Sanborn maps, preferably before the field work. And that all of that information make it into the subsequent monitoring report when it's all done. That sound good? Okay.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Yeah.
Member Wands? Yes. The motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Sherry has Southwest tested the parking lot. Okay. The north, there's a site, that site, the circle is in Chris, you know, not full report, it's got the whole history of
That area, okay.
We should, that,
Yeah.
okay.
It first item is 153,992.
Because it was a testimony report, I don't think they did, an updated LA, so it was like, but the report itself is a full history of what's there, what the buildings that were there, and then what was found. Okay, during testing. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 2023-6864. Chronicle Heritage, agent for PNM, requests approval for an archaeological monitoring and discovery plan for the boring of 5,619 feet of subsurface electrical line on Camino Echo and Seville Geological Review District. Thank you for the staff report. Paul, anything to add? Correct? No, sir. You'll have to be sworn.
You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Heather Seltzer Rogers, 10505 Hackamore Place, Southwest, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 8712.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Just that our name is still in position, so you can see Kelly West in the report, but monitoring the pool for plant report should probably have Chronicle Heritage by then at that point, hopefully, we'll see.
Good evening.
Well, first of all, I don't think you'll ever hear me say this again, but in this particular case, I'm glad that it's boring and not crimson because I don't want to be tearing at the campus where I work. Beyond that bit of facetious, I do have a question regarding the pull boxes. And I think the best place to look at that is your figure 1-3, which I can't see a page number. Oh, here it is, page 4. So normally I've come to expect to see pull boxes where there are like significant turns or, you know, where the length exceeds. But there are some right angle and even 180-degree turns on this map that don't have anything at all. I'm just wondering how that's going to be accomplished without a pull box.
I think there might be additional ones, but they weren't zeros or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you are there to monitor all of them, not
Okay.
just what they have put on this map. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Number 1.
She had a not determining things, but question, in terms of how close you're getting to like the lab and everything like that. Is anybody checking about vibrations? I'm just curious, because you're on the Santa Fe Formation, it's all loose sediment and it was start building where there's going to be boring.
Yeah, a brief encounter with an unforeseen pocket of gravels will vibrate acres and acres of country.
Let's put it this way, if I have ceiling plaster falling on my head while they're doing this work, I'll be upset.
All right.
Oh, since I interrupted, I might as well add one more thought. There's obviously quite a bit of surface visibility here, even though the ground may be clear, so full survey before the boring first.
Yes, I have that note, but then I found somewhere in here that you said you were going to do it yesterday. That was my big question, is the vibrations from the building.
I didn't think of that, but yeah.
I don't know that we even have what's going on.
It's worth pointing out. Remember that?
I guess my question was similar, only I came at it from, this idea that the Old Santa Fe Trail remnants are still existing, and so I guess the surface investigation would reveal that. Is that?
Yeah, so if we find anything, we'll document it. There is already a known site that has Santa Fe Trail.
When I first went to Santa Fe, you could still see some of these ruts, and now they're all behind walls and fences.
Yeah.
All righty. Santa Fe Trail, that's one of the things I was gonna speak to, because I think you're crossing multiple alignments as shown in Talon Figus. So potential for being able to notice whales is pretty high. It may not be easily visible within your project area because well, most of that's going to be splits with grading or whatever. But look to the side often because those alignments are real.
I think I do recall us dealing with a previous case with one right about in here. They were gonna put a little footbridge or something over it. Is that reason?
So I think that was when the folk art foundation was going to put walking trails everywhere and something else and change pretty much the whole existence of things up there.
Yeah, it was part of that master plan that you up in.
Yeah, that they would put clear bridges over the swells.
Yeah. But anyway, and about the southwest
Like
corner, opposite the folk art museum, there is a known whale, but you can still see.
Page 5. More pedantic things to read. Page 8. Environmental setting. The references to the genus and species is kind of all over the place. In some cases, it's correct. In many cases, it's not. There are capitalizations where there shouldn't be. There are odd misspellings. I appreciate the effort, but it might be simpler just to use common names. When we get to page 9, the wheels really come off, and things that should be italicized are not. And when you get down to the animals, it's kind of uniformly not. So it was just one of those things that jumps out and hits me in the face, so I had to mention it since I spent time looking at it. Page 28, Memphis Records Review. In Santa Fe, do yourself a favor and restrict yourself to 500 meters instead of a half a mile.
Okay, I just like to do extra work, it's not.
Save the tree. And save your own patience because it can be really messy. Monitoring. Anyone will measure all areas of downstream. Well, you're monitoring all pool bars, any ancillary excavations, but you are not, in fact, going to be able to monitor the vast majority of the ground disturbance associated with this because it's 42 inches below the surface of Mother Earth. So perhaps find a different way to place that.
There are also those ad hoc potholes where they need to discover utilities, and they do it by just pumping in slurry and pumping it back out.
Yeah, you're
I'll
gonna
pause
go
for
back.
here.
Unless something happens to bubble up. It could be 1 in a million.
What about the, Chair? What about the soil from the boring? Isn't there soil that comes out? No,
Sludge.
it's just,
Cause they're shooting the device through there, and if it needs, depending on the geology, to be flushed out, it's using fluid. And so what you're gonna get is a slurry.
oh, okay.
It's kind of like doing potholes, you get a muddy mess,
Oh, I see.
and then what does come out is gonna be crumbs because
Because of that.
grinding its way through it.
Okay.
That's kind of the problem. For grades with high density sites is that you just lost everything there.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. And so what's the point of the boring?
So. So if you're putting, you have two options. You can bore, which in areas where there's nothing, it's the least ground disturbing. You don't have to shut down all the traffic and everything. If there are sites, you can blow through it, blow, and have no idea you've done so.
Should I have a board that you can then see through?
No, you can't see it at all. It's like, say the ground surface is here, what they're doing is going down under here. Like, so like a kind of flexible material that they're just gonna, it's like if you're pulling wires through your house and you've got your pipe and you have a lead like string where you can't get through, that's basically what they're doing. Your other option is to trench, which means you're setting everything around. They just repave the street, you're tearing all that up.
So the boring is a function of the cable, not of the archaeology. That was my.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I was going. It's like, well, if you're destroying everything, isn't that
Right.
sort of?
No. It's kind of one of those, like, in areas with low potential, it's not a big deal. In areas with potential, then.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
Cause you're really just rolling dice.
Some of the surface exploration is really important in this.
Yes.
You need clues about where to be working.
Got it. Okay.
And depending on what you find, then you may have to force a punt and require a different method in that particular area.
And that's where the monitoring comes in.
It would continue to be
Yeah.
a factor because we know they're going to dig pits wherever they need to insert the device for boring and to pull material through. So there's going to be lots of holes in the ground.
Gotta be having touch up to see anything that's there.
Thank you.
Which-
Thank you for asking.
Which
Yeah,
is
questions?
vernacular,
Good
those
questions.
things are often called trenches, even though it's not being trenched as a project, you're still trenching these bore pits. Full pits, and which leads me to the next comment on page 52. Ubico has mentioned of trenching under mapping and photography. We know what you mean, but it might be good to specify. And that is all. So, members, motion.
Mr. Chair, in case 6864, I move that we approve the monitoring plan for underground electrical line from Laredo down to Mexico, with the requested corrections to the text and just some general copy editing.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yeah.
Member Pierce?
Yes.
Member Wands?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Of course.
Case number 2023-6898. Stephen Post, agent for Brian and Jennifer Locke, requests approval of an archaeological reconnaissance report of a 2.4 acre survey at 508 Alejo in the River and Trail Archaeological Review District. We have your staff report. Paul, anything to add to that?
Correct, no, sir.
Thank you. We have Mr. Post here. Please sworn in.
You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Stephen Post. My address is 3924 Old Santa Fe Trail, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Thank you.
Stephen, we have the floor. Anything you need to tell us?
Whoa.
To this topic.
It's been a long time. Nice to see everyone. Heather, I haven't seen you for a long time.
I know.
Good to see you. I was back for a while. Was there, I'm happy to see you on the board, on the committee, on the position. Really, I didn't read the staff report. I haven't seen it, but I assume it summarized my findings and recommendations. So I won't go through that again. I think that this particular project would probably be of interest to your previous because it is on Camino Viejo, and I do provide a fairly extensive history of Camino Viejo and interpret it in ways that I haven't seen in the literature before. So that might be useful. As I outlined in the report, the property happens to be at the intersection of what was once the west end of Camino Viejo, and an intersection that also included Old Pecos Road in the it's hard to read. So Old Pecos Road up until the 1930s. My search inspection of the property revealed no evidence of those roads remaining. So I did what I thought was a fairly thorough map and photographic research and interpretation of the roads and intersections and their place in the transportation history of Southeast Santa Fe. And from that, I concluded that project should be an archaeological thing, by the archaeological review. So,
Thank you. In a nutshell. Committee members, member Beck.
Can you start somebody else?
Oh, of course. Member one.
I just wanted to say the history that you provided.
thank you. It was really difficult.
Yeah.
But fun.
Well, yeah. Not billable.
I understand free fun.
I had a good time on.
That's all.
So that was, yeah.
Thank you.
Member Pierce.
Of the dozen cases we had tonight, there were only two where I did not have any comments, and you were the one. I guess the only thing I'll say is the second, my appreciation of the historical research. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I felt because I had two potential historical earthquakes near or crossing the property that I should be pretty thorough in my non-field investigation. So you're welcome. Thank you.
I did have a question. Were there other aerial photographs showing any other structures other than that house on that lot? Is there nothing else on that lot? Any other story like
Confused. You mean the 508 Camino Viejo lot?
yes, is that what we're not talking about?
Yes. The first, the earliest, I think the earliest photos would have been 1961 and 1968.
Yeah.
And I didn't search for those. So either maybe photos that show that house in 1961 or 1968, but I didn't include it because it really wasn't part of what I was addressing. but it's a good question.
And none of your other historical maps that you provided show any structures on that property.
Nor the land grant descriptions or the DeVargas Heights subdivision. Number 2, plat maps and.
Right, that was a cool map with the overlay of the streets on the aerial.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't change that to call it off of the city GIS, so it's not as clear as I would have liked.
So it was a great history, and I just wanted more,
More recent.
yeah, more recent. I mean, 1961, 1958, 1936. There's some real great aerial photographs. Yeah. Okay. Was that the one you overlaid?
1951.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had 1936 was overlaid with the 1890.
That was what
1897 white map, which is a useful way
Yeah.
to use that particular aerial image.
I guess there was just more structures. Are there more structures?
The earliest structure, if you look at the 1936 map, is actually at the intersection of Arroyo Piedra, de las Piedras, and the old Pecos Road, which is north of the project area. It's at the northeast corner, more or less, of the current intersection of San Mateo Road and Old Pecos Trail. And the aerial photo does show a house in 1936. It's likely the earliest house in the neighborhood.
I must have missed that one.
I also apologize for I would have liked to have shown these maps larger, but I also expected that you could bring large. And that's PDF one that.
With the PDFs, one can have seen a lot. I was stuck with that.
Okay. Well, I have to. If you want to continue, I know you've got a lot of time to.
That's fine. I just was curious. Thank you.
Then 2 things. I don't know how this happened because your references cited extensive, but virtually half of what's listed on page 12 didn't make it into the references cited. Wills 1988, 1986, Kelly 1988.
So out of those.
Lang 1992. It's just an odd thing.
That is your,
The rest of it.
so that late archaic fascinated 2 period. Oh, no, yeah, and 800. Well, that is odd.
Yeah. So let's have a little thing to fix. And then on page 42, the figure 10. The overlay now. I never found a clear place where I could understand what the number 2 on your figure 10 is referring to, because I couldn't find a reference to number 2.
Okay. Well, number 2 is the Pecos and Las Vegas Road.
We're just calling attention to
Its intersection at the Laboratory of Anthropology with the east-west road that I described in the report, as well as the road coming off of what's now Camino Monte Sol. Those roads intersected at the Laboratory of Anthropology. So do I need to add a 2 in there?
It seems like there is no overt reference to the number 2 with an explication of why it's there. It's another one of minor things. That is all. Many numbers.
So on page 41, that's the number 2. Second full paragraph, second sentence. My page 41.
Are we ready for a motion?
We are.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 6898 Archaeological Survey Report for Brian and Jennifer Locke at 508 Vallejo, with the requested corrections from staff.
My pleasure. Moved and seconded, roll call vote please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Yes.
Member Wands?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Case number 2023-6874. SWCA agent for PNN request approval for an archaeological monitoring plan for trench excavation and installation of 645 feet of subsurface utility line at 2128 Old Arroyo Chamizo Road in the suburban Alvarado. Thank you for your staff report. Paul, anything to add? Sure. Robin.
Okay, we're going for you. You swear under the. Oh, he's not here. No.
But somebody else.
James Gallis.
Okay. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, you have a floor.
I'm the archaeologist that did the survey and management, but I'm here to represent.
Then let me start with a question. The survey report are going to be forwarded into the monitoring report.
That's the way that we're at here.
On the verify. The numbers, number one.
I'd like to do about that.
Thank you, member Beckman.
This is the one where I just made a general note that I was confused about what I was looking at. Because I didn't see any, it's very much like new buildings. Are there no buildings?
Shown on the maps that were presented with the report, there's nothing in the area.
There's nothing in the area. And the aerial is kind of blurry. It looks like your red lines on top of the building. That is on page for 1-4. You're looking at 14.
Yeah, but page
1-4.
1-4.
It's figure 1-3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's just the location map, because all the others are the grant maps. They're included here.
Okay.
I mean, and then there are pictures of a building, showing a corral and an outbuilding.
Those are more recent, right?
And so, is there, do they want to?
The corral buildings,
Well, I mean,
they're associated with the house that's on that corner property.
and are you,
But
you're gonna be in the
but
road?
the easement does not trespass those
Yeah,
buildings.
and it was just hard to tell what was happening, so I'm wondering.
So clarification, that the building is outside.
But if you had a drawing or an overlay on an aerial photograph that has a larger scale that shows the buildings, and when you show your ditch or your trench or whatever it is, then I would be less curious. Maybe it's
Clear earlier is where the building is on the photograph.
and these buildings are from 1928 or they're from whatever, so then you might find wagon ruts, or you might find, or the, you know, I mean, I don't know what
You
you're
did mention there is a wagon.
Right, right, yeah, so that's, you know, are these corrals associated with that wagon road?
No. They're more recent.
But it'd be nice to know.
Okay.
And those little details would probably fall out in the survey report. Were it a standalone thing, but it's not going to be a standalone thing. It's going to be part of this monitoring report. And so we're
Okay, so I'm speaking.
We're at the crab table and betting on, because we don't know yet. And no, you're dead on.
Oh,
Those are
right.
excellent observations, because that could have been explained in the monitoring plan, so that the reason for X, Y, and Z would not cause need for questions or confusion or. So.
I'm asking the dumb question.
No.
Absolutely.
No, I don't.
Oh, actually, I don't have any comments.
Okay, so I don't have to ask about the details. I do want to raise an issue with page A4. Table A2. As far as I can tell, the 3 sites listed in table A2 have nothing to do with this project. The 3 sites illustrated in the map that's on page A3 are different numbers. So we don't know, based on table A2, what your expectations are. Not that you don't know what you're expecting, it's just not presented.
Okay, so the question is, what on table A2 is not represented in
Table A2 lists 3 sites that apparently have nothing to do with this project. I don't know where they are. I didn't look up in arms, but they are not the 3 sites that are shown on your map of previous sites recorded in the area. The previous surveys, however, are a 1-to-1 match with the figure depicting the previous survey in there. Or something that led Caboose to take a different track. That is all. You can entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 6874 archaeological monitoring plan for underground utility lines at 2128 Fort Ocean Hill Road, with the request for clarification and not correction feedback.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Yes.
Member Wong?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff.
Case number 2023.
Sorry. Melissa has to leave right now for the planning commission. We're going to continue, but she just needs to swear in all other people that are expected to speak.
Cool. Do you have anybody else online?
Just Nicole.
Okay. So we don't have to worry about that.
Okay, so I will swear everybody in. You all swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimonies you will be giving are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. And when you speak, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you for that. Need it. Now, case number 2023-6865. Wizards agent for Kelly Cable of New Mexico requests approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for trench excavation and boring of approximately 4,000 feet. A subsurface fiber optic line from Cerritos Road and Richards Avenue to Richards Avenue and Henry Lynch Road to Alafria Street in the River and Trails and Suburban Archaeological Review District. The middle soccer board has a much shorter telephone. For that one. Anything that added to this after?
Sir, no, sir, not on this one.
All right. Ron, Liberty Johnson, you must identify yourself as the maintenance members for record.
Ron Richards,
She would have had an issue.
109 Paula, 87505.
Thank you. You have the floor, having been sworn in previously.
Okay, so it's first privilege is there. The survey was conducted by Stephen Post and Cornelia Snow in 1991. It encompassed the entire length of the project area in their survey. I found their comment, they found no important prehistoric or historic cultural resources within the phase 1 segment, and that's where I think my project is. Although one site was identified, LA 87055, they determined that the data potential in that portion of the state was exhausted and no further investigation was recommended. I did go out and make a site visit recently and found no physical evidence of the being modified. And that's all.
Fair enough. Committee members, member Pierce.
Just a couple of things, cartographic critique, if you will.
Okay.
This is on your figure 2 on page 6. There's an aerial photograph. North is not the top of the page. I did eventually find a north arrow up in the very, very corner, but it's so tiny it's to be not noticeable, probably under your.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's there.
And then on the very next page, figure 3, another arrow photograph, no north arrow at all, but I'm gathering from the way the text is oriented that north is not the top of the page there either. So always a good idea to have a north arrow, but especially so when north is not top. So, but that's all I have.
Thank you. Rebecca.
I'm still trying to remember this one, sorry. I was like, I know I read it.
We can come back to you.
Thank you.
Number 1.
So you sort of addressed this, but, so your project is entirely on the west side of the road?
Yes.
When I looked in Nimcris, it was like the area that was surveyed was entirely on the east side of the road.
I got the impression from what I found that it was the entire road because they were expanding or they were continuing Richards Avenue.
I was looking at it through the aerial, so it could have been a little.
Yeah.
And I did not pull the previous group blurry.
I do have it, but I believe that's what, yeah, I mean, that's why I said that.
Great, and then, kind of have questions about forming the entire thing, just in terms of, I know. I was previously told by not an archaeologist, but by someone who lived there whose name is now Elaine, that there was a huge site on that property when his parents came over that area.
Where?
Where the school is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have heard the same thing. So that northern 400 meters, 300 meters.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered.
Oh, okay, because it's not shown on.
No, this was actually the people who owned
Oh,
that land. This is not, we called in archaeologists. This is, I grew up here and
yeah,
this
nice
here.
You're talking
about here.
And on the school,
and we don't actually.
Yeah,
Other tree was mentioned, but. You know. Yeah. So this was something of oral history from.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, I can only.
And I mean, obviously, you can't look that up. I'm just saying in terms of
Yeah.
forwarding. I haven't been told.
Right. And
I thought. I have a feeling that we could never recommend it.
So to follow up on that, now, your figure 3, aerial showing project location in one town. The round symbols are the
Markets.
and it goes all the way to essentially the entrance of the school and then over to the school.
Yes.
From my understanding of the statements made by the resident in question, both of those northern bulkheads are within what they felt was a large site. And the next one to the south is also possibly within.
Okay,
I think when you get to the next one, it might be outside.
right. Well, yeah, I think they bored through there, it's the parking lot, but also the entrance to the school. It goes right here.
So,
But I certainly would be fully aware, and maybe expand as much as I could.
I think this, the utmost attention to everything that happens in those bulkheads.
Yeah.
That's step one, and then if you hit indications of major archaeology, really worry about slamming a bulkhead through there because they're going to be putting holes through people.
Right.
Multiple people.
Yes.
Oh, there were burials?
If the site is as described, there could be a very large number of burials.
Is there any documentation on here? It's all oral.
And it's somebody who, adjacent to what he does for a living, has spent enough time around people monitoring archaeology to have said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a shame that it wasn't ever.
Also, you know, just from spending half my life in that area. All those residents along that entire strip of land will come and tell you about the burials they found. I was digging a garden. This is this.
Very good.
Elite 2 was extended as far down as it was without excavation on the way because somebody was keeping in a telephone pole and hit a full burial.
Wow.
So
that's why LA2 has a weird
extension. Well, you know, I did a survey out there not that long ago. It's not been submitted yet about I extended LA2 down. This is on the Archdiocese property. And I said, like to advise my point, you did not want to disturb this at all, you know, because of that. And but yeah, I mean, it just.
Oh yeah, no, everybody knows that site is there. It's because it's the Catholic Church that it was not given permission to include those portions of the site boundaries.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I extended it.
Then your client must have been said church and let you do so.
Well, they were buying a segment of the property from the church.
Okay, that's why the church will not allow.
And I said, you don't, I mean, move way south.
Most of that will continue all the way to.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, because there are a couple sites recorded there.
You can rest assured. Pretty much.
And there's a thing he has complex there too.
So, this building that's on the site at the, what they call the 9 Center, it was, they tore down a John Galmeen building to build this one. And so it might be nice also to have a bit more history before you.
Oh, well, certainly, yeah, in the final report, if that's the case, yeah.
I believe it is. I mean, it was heavily renovated before and remodeled. That's why they tore it down, but.
What I like to do, Gail, is when I have various projects with the buildings, is go to Suffolk Center and get the copies of the original drawings. Do you know, what that building was, or?
It was an elementary school. It
Oh,
was Ogden Creek Elementary School.
Oh, that was the school, okay. Cause I worked at a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Winfield. Or,
They basically moved this all about this on LA2. The next site popped it down on what they popped it down on.
That's leading to perpetual confusion as to what you're talking about when you
Yes,
say
but
that.
it's
Schoolhouse site.
I know.
Yeah.
That's that too, like, and then someone else told me their mother went to school at this other place, and I was like, oh, okay.
no, and
Oh,
that's
yeah,
gonna do.
you talk to the local
Mhm.
out there, they'll tell you they played in the standing walls of the school, you know, when they were kids.
Mhm.
I have this that I just saw.
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
I think perhaps on page 24, that on your fourth paragraph on the Kelly Cable handheld installation trenches. I believe if you look at that full paragraph, I think you wound up with half of something from another report. I think you mushed. Very technical terms.
Yeah.
Because you go kind of
Start down the road and then get,
after your second sentence is mechanical excavation will proceed in 20-centimeter levels until the relationship between natural stratigraphy and the exposed coastal deposits is established, and then continues on from there, which is
normally trenched.
right, but it's also pretty much the exact wording from
Yeah. So it
your
makes it sound like Kelly Cable is going to see 20-something.
Yeah.
Right.
especially since it's being poured.
Well, but in the bore pits, trench, the trenches, bore pits, I mean, I
Right.
take it slow.
Yeah. But this is, it seems like it came from your, next.
Oh, well.
It's kind of like.
Yeah, no,
when
I
read your
think
next one, I could see
I
where
could
the.
tailor it, but I mean, I do closely monitor the trenches, and I don't let them dig trenches, bore pits. I don't let them, go crazy just when they're digging those. But yeah, I can tailor it better to what we're actually doing.
Anything else? Okay. Number back.
I asked my question just with John Bonnie, I was just looking at this map check. So these geography, these shapes don't really mean anything, or do they?
No, they all mean something. So,
But they are often approximations.
so that right there,
That's the LA2 you're talking about.
Right.
And that's the other one.
That's the other one.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so what happens is in Nimcrest, if people don't actually, in the past, if people didn't submit, all you had was a center point, and what they said was the lengths. All those circles mean we don't really know exactly we don't have the exact shape, or it's on old USGS topo maps, and nobody's gone back and confirmed.
Thank you.
You had your side. Okay, then just me, two things left over after all that. Page 23, next to the last line, a reference to smell, CT, 1993, appears as 1995, and the reference is cited. And then on page 36, in your references cited, Dick Petty, rendered as Dick Petty, And while I don't agree with his biological assessments and much of anything, he is not petty. His name is Ted D. Double D. 36. That is all.
Okay.
We can have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve case 6865. Archaeological monitoring plans for subsurface fiber optics. And sampling and etc. With the requested corrections.
Motion,
Second.
second. Roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Wands?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Yes.
Motion has passed.
Thank you. Moving on to case number 20236873. Ron Winters, agent for True North Builders, requests approval for an archaeological inventory and testing report for the proposed development of 507 Paseo de Barroca and historic downtown archaeological review district.
No, it's 235. Isn't it? 507.
Okay, never mind. Start over. Case number 20236862. Is that the correct case? Yeah. Ron Winters, agent for GE Senlake LLC and Legacy Hospitality and Management LLC requests. Let me just stop right there. Whoever types these agendae, and individual requests. Should be an S on the end of that, and I've been reading it that way, and I can't stand it anymore. The editor side of me is going crazy. Request approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for feature 5 at 235 West San Francisco Street in the historic downtown archaeological review district. Mr. Duran, staff report is in front of us. Anything to add or change?
Chirac, no, sir.
All right, Ron, you're still sworn in, so tell us what else we need to know about.
I have a representative from the project. Would you like to sworn in case you'd like to say something?
Okay,
I was
Lauren.
born, but my name is Jeff Steers with Steers Architecture here in Santa Fe, 122 Lorenzo Road, 87501.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a short comment. So the entire parcel was given archaeological clearance to Southwest Archaeological Consultants in 1999. And at that time, Stephen Post and the rest of the committee, their only condition was to monitor feature 5 if development was proposed in the area, this area of the property. This plan addresses the monitoring of that area, and that included the clearance form and subsequent clearance for the project in 2019 by the city, with the same condition noted. I've also included an extensive archival history by John Murphy. So that's it.
All right. Committee members. Pierce.
My only comment is to express my pleasure that the city is actually honoring the stipulation that was put in place 2 dozen years ago. It's well done. It's not easy to keep track of those things, and yeah, from that long ago, that's great. No other comments. So.
Number 1.
So on page 38 of your monitoring and build methods, and it may just be that right somewhere with this my brain didn't compute most things, but you're talking about if architectural or other features are encountered, the feature will be defined and excavated within the extent of the project area. If the feature is more than a meter across, 20% sample of the fill will be excavated. If the feature is more than 5 meters across, 10% sample will be excavated. The remaining fill within the feature will be removed and screened for artifacts. So my question is, because you're excavating a 30 by 50 foot area, correct?
Yes.
So if you hit a structure, which is what they think is there, right? Structural foundation.
Yeah,
So you would expose fully the structure, correct? Because that's within the area
Yeah.
of, and then would you only excavate 10% of that?
not necessarily, Courtney. I think the situation would, would warrant what you would, how much.
Right, that's why I'm clarifying this.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because it's kind of a different setting. You're
Right.
You're monitoring something where you know
Right.
most likely that there's a building foundation sitting under there,
Right.
plus a basement, it looks like. So if then the 10%.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't get cited to that, because I want to expose it and see, one thing I didn't want to note, when in John's research, normally, on those maps, if there is a basement, it shows it. And he said it doesn't indicate that on that building that there was a basement. So I'm curious myself what they were seeing, like that.
Right.
But
So can I clarify that? So you will, if there is a building or foundation of a building, you will expose the whole foundation?
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
is that your question? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
well, and that's also, if you see feature 5, what they identified as feature 5, I extended it, 50 feet that way and 30 feet that way, if it warrants it, because they'll expose the whole area.
Right.
So there's no
Right.
need for me to stop at 30 if there's more to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of have it clarified and
Yeah.
defined on record that this is in fact how this is
Right.
happening.
I am sworn in. I swear. No, I get it.
My comment is I appreciated John Murphy's history as well, and appreciate all the meticulous,
He's great that way, and I use him as often as I can. It's not, it adds a considerable cost, to the project, but it's in an area like this, it's absolutely worth it.
and I appreciated all the history and the lovely photograph of Mr. Maralter.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Well, it's me. Page 7. There's a following with your references cited. Virtually everything on that page isn't in your official list of references cited, and that vexes me. Because I know you've had it in there in the past.
So folks, Kelly and Baker et al. Are not in.
All right. Please. And throw away the old template that we're using to write from, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel again.
Yeah.
That's all. Motion.
Did we have any actual corrections?
Just
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 6862, archaeological monitoring plan for feature 5 at 235 Citgo Street with requested corrections to the text.
Moved and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Wands?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Yeah.
Motion has passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun out there.
Thanks, Steph.
Now we can go on. Let's see, started reading case number 2023-686-3. Ron Winters, agent for True North Builders, requests approval for an archaeological inventory and testing report for the proposed development at 507 Paseo de Peralta and it was put downtown archaeological review district. Report in front of us, anything to add or change?
Yes, Chair, just with this. You know, after reviewing the code of ordinances, I believe that this report fell short on the archaeological side. And it doesn't deem to be given clearance through city staff review, but we're presenting it to you today.
Okay.
And to be clear, the issue was the depth of the test units?
Yes, that's correct. Under for what the applicant is required to do, they didn't do it, so we can't accept it.
So in modern vernacular, you're punting.
And I would say with the HDRB understanding and learning as the HDRB administers the work and applying the same skill set here with the ARC, if the applicant doesn't complete the work necessary, we can't move forward with their case. And so his case is incomplete as an archaeologist. He has to test those units until sterile. These units were tested 30 centimeters down and doesn't provide any information. So he didn't do that. For his applicant, for the owner, whoever hired them, he didn't do them what he was hired for. So as he sends it back to us after review through the city code of ordinances, it wasn't completed, so we can't give him clearance because the test units weren't completed and he didn't do the job till completion.
And we would like your input.
Okay,
Yes.
we can provide input. Many members. Member back.
I have nothing to say in this regard, sorry.
No, I can imagine, because it's like.
I've already been tracked 1A than this one, so, yeah.
You have the floor.
So as I've said in the past, I always start my 2% test excavations with the trenching. And I feel that this gives one a better understanding of the soils one will encounter and the artifact density or lack of it. On this project, I excavated approximately 700 cubic feet of soil and recovered 27 artifacts. This was in the trench. This is a low density of artifacts in the historic downtown review district. I also encountered sandstone at the northern end of the trench, which made excavating the ramp in difficult. This is not surprising, as the topsoil of what would have been a hill slope would have been removed years ago when the existing parking lot was created. This is most likely the reason that the historic maps included in the report show nothing built on the project parcel. While excavating TU1, I encountered the same sandstone at the base of level 3. Single modern nail was the only artifact recovered, and that was in the base course. Trench 2 exposed no cultured resources and was also terminated at 30 centimeters below the present ground surface. Both the city and the IRC have used the term sterile soil to determine when excavation can be terminated. I have to say that the archaeological definition of sterile soil is the layer of soil that contains no presence of cultural material. The City of Santa Fe ordinance governing cultural resources states excavations shall proceed to a depth where no archaeological features or artifacts are encountered. There's nothing in the ordinance that says anything about the depth. What it stresses is features or artifacts. I believe that all 3 test excavations met that criteria. You have to understand what this what this was prior to being a parking lot. If you looked at the lot to the east, you see it was a hill slope. Now, I'm not surprised that I found, you know, I don't know what you would call sandstone if not sterile. But I think that term gets misused, and I think you have to apply what the ordinance says, not a liberal interpretation.
I detest being labeled a liberal.
No, no, I mean, I think it gets used, but in a different way than what the ordinance says.
I believe the ordinance,
Read it.
it says tax excavations encompassing a minimum of 2% of the lot area, total lot area. At least 18 square feet shall be dug by hand, after which further excavations may be made by mechanical equipment. The test units that are being questioned here are the 2 hand dug test units. We've all done dug test units. You've got below base course and stopped. And 30 centimeters, it shows clearly you went below the base course and asphalt, and you touched into the first soil. And I believe it was your D soil was your cultural fill soil, but below that is your sterile. And I believe that you just get into your D and then you stop. And we need to, in order for us, I believe, as the review, what kind of archaeological work is being done here in the city and in downtown. There may be more present, there may not be, but we don't know. And that's the job of the test unit, is to know what's below there. In that big trench that you put in, yes, that's great. That's where you were able to identify where your soils are at, what soils you have in that area, and then you know what to look for. And those 2 soils you show, one is like a reddish clay and the other one's like a darkish brown clay. So you're definitely in clay. You're not in Santa Fe River cobbles. You're not that everybody, and we all know that Santa Fe River cobbles is generally our natural soil. These 2 soils are 2 different, and they're not what we commonly see as part of the alluvial fan that here in Santa Fe. So I believe that you did dig them and you started them, and then it was cut short.
Well, I would say that the test unit 1 especially was the northern extent, where I was hitting the same soil that I hit at the northern extent of the trench. Very hard sandstone. And that's why I told you I found 1 artifact, and that was the modern nail in the base course. But beyond that, I didn't find anything. And then I hit that dense sandstone that I found when I didn't see a reason to go to try and get to that and dig through that, since there were no artifacts or features of count.
I would imagine that all your test units should show what your trench showed. I would imagine that.
I'm not digging a test unit 5 feet deep.
I'm not saying that, because it doesn't say that in the ordinance. But if you're finding 27 artifacts in that D soil, then most likely you might find more in that soil that you dug below base course.
You know how in 700 cubic feet, I found 27 artifacts. That's nothing. Downtown.
Okay, we're only following the ordinance as staff purview is ordinance only, and that's what we're pertaining to. So because what you presented does not, from staff's review, does not meet the ordinance.
I'll be happy to just treat it deeper if that's what you're asking.
I can only enforce what the ordinance states. And that's what the ordinance states until.
But you're not. It's not what it says.
And that's why it's presented to the ARC for review, to defer, staff is deferring to the ARC committee.
Make a couple of observations here. One, I learned just now, the conversation that the nail was found in the base course. That's not in the report. That I.
It was monitored.
It was what?
Monitored.
Speaks of a rusty nail, so. Modern nails, rusted could be 100+ years old, so. Its individual characteristic is less important than where it is and what it suggests you might encounter. 2, the first I heard that these materials were likely found in what is illustrated in the trench as stratum D is now. I have no idea where these things were found. For all I know, they came from E or G. Whichever one isn't sandstone. I have no idea. So, if indeed the artifacts came from D, neither units 1 or 2 have been excavated to a sufficient depth. The ordinance does say that this hand excavation will occur and additional excavation may be done with a machine. I understand your wish to see something about a big picture before you actually put shovel to earth, but it leads you astray more often than not. Unit 1 does not meet the ordinance because it does not expose bedrock across the entirety of the bottom of the unit. You dinged it on one side. If it's 4 feet further down on the other side, that's of interest because what is the edge? Is the edge the excavated through bedrock foundation basement of a previous structure? Or is it just bedrock? We don't know that because the unit stopped too early. In unit 2, I don't think it tells us anything. So if the artifacts did indeed come from what is described as stratum D in the trench, unit 2 doesn't meet criteria. If you could argue that they came from stratum C, that would put some different color on it, and certain things might be a little more straightforward and acceptable. But elsewhere in the report, you say the extent of this was mapped. I don't see any extent of it mapped. It's not called out on profiles. It's not mapped in horizontal plan view either. I have no idea where the artifacts came from. It's described as a stratum. It must be defined in the profile and discussed in the text. And if it has a spatial, horizontal dimension that you can depict, you should depict it. Encountering a few artifacts in a trench, I agree, it's not too unexpected, but it's the details. Where did they come from? What is the deposit that contains them? And your statement at the end of the discussion of unit 2, it appears to be disturbed. I want to tear my hair out because disturbed soil is archaeological soil. You must go to the depth at which you no longer see disturbance in order to say it is sterile. And if that takes you 20 feet down, fine. But it's got to happen. We have to demonstrate that we have found the bottom. Scratching the surface doesn't cut it. And that's all we've done here. Other than the trench, which is informative. Because if, as you say, this lot has been cleared and leveled for creation of a parking lot from what had been a hill slope, that could be extensively discussed in the report, and context for characterization of the strata encountered in your excavation units could have benefited from that concept. Most of these flags have to do with the fact that we haven't demonstrated sterile. So. I agree. It doesn't meet the criteria.
Well, I still feel that the term sterile soil is not being applied.
Do you want to pull out of field methods in archaeology textbook?
Well, I looked up what the archaeological, definition of sterile soil was, and that's what I quoted. I looked at the ordinance, and that's what I saw.
But you haven't gone down deep enough to determine there's no archaeology under where you are. So you have not demonstrated sterile. That's the entire point of testing. The same reason why the entire point of taking those test units first is to ensure you don't take a backhoe and put it through something really significant. Plus, I'm sorry you don't agree. Plus the fact that you've got different soils with different soils with the same soil strat descriptor that aren't the same soils. So there's no way to carry across the site and tie everything in because these are all different soils.
Well, if you look at the topography, as I stated, the undulating surface, next to it.
Right, but you're calling D a completely different thing across units. So you cannot get a stratigraphic picture of the site of what you are in.
That I understand what you see.
Normally, you use Roman numerals, and if your test unit 2 starts at strat 3 of test unit 1, that's how you label it, so that you can build a soil profile across the entire site. Without that consistency, there's no way to even say if you got anywhere near you. Plus the fact that it's really hard to know where those artifacts are because it wasn't said.
Yeah, well,
the level that the artifacts came from.
They came out of the initial excavation of D. They didn't go to the bottom of the trench, but then when I was finding the stuff, it would be like the first buckets that would come out.
Right, but you give it as 2 different time periods, which suggests that they're 2 distinct.
It's just because they're found, sures are found in conjunction with modern or historic. It's not like they're.
But did you discuss that in here?
I mean, it's all, it comes out in the bucket, it's not stratified, that you can tell.
Except that in here you say that some of it was observed in the trench. It wasn't.
There was one piece of glass, right below right below C.
So, follow up the lines discussion about stratigraphic control across the investigation. More description of what each stratum is necessary, and relating strata across your units is imperative, because without that we are left with 3 baskets of mismatched fruit: apples, oranges, lemons, and limes.
We might as well come from 3 different areas of the city.
We have no way of comparing.
Well, I mean, this is not.
Okay, in order to have a permit under the city of Santa Fe, you have to have a state permit. Which means that you are required to meet certain expectations. That is part of it. That's why the ordinance doesn't spell everything out, because it's spelled out in the requirements for what the state expects. You're held under that same level. Otherwise, you wouldn't be required to hold a state permit.
One thing that I think the point that you're missing is that this isn't, a level surface.
I understand that, I've excavated where there's these chunks of concrete and you still have to go down in a narrower spot.
No, that isn't what I was referring to. I was referring to the original surface, and trying to tie in what you're seeing in, the trench to what you're seeing in these units that are, in opposite corners of the project area. To try to call it the same thing. You don't necessarily know that it's the same level, is what I'm saying.
If you don't know, you say you don't know, and you give it a unique stratum designation, so that you end up with I through XV double I. Or if you insist on using alphabet A to Z, and then you can start off with double A. You have to specify.
No, I
understand. Just lay it out, because we cannot expect the city staff to accept something that doesn't meet the requirements in front of us. And had they accepted it, would have heard the usual diatribe about not bringing anything to us that hasn't been vetted. So they didn't vet it. They chose to solicit opinion. And so we are not going to consider approval of this in any way, shape, or form. We're offering input.
I can certainly take those deeper and see if I can coordinate or the levels that I found in the trench. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. And give them, if they don't, you need, strata designations. And see if I can, describe them a little better for you.
If staff may say, Chair Act, staff did vet this and did not approve of this per these reasons. Applicant did come back to staff and requested that it be presented to the hearing.
Oh, I wanted clarification, so
Okay. Yeah, I fumbled my description of the sequence of events. It didn't pass your vetting, is what I intended to say. And so yeah, every one of these flags in here has to do with the fact that we don't know where the bottom is. And it's put it completely out to the extreme. If you were to excavate unit 1 down past the bedrock assumed, exposed, because it could be a detached piece of the same sandstone that actually is a structural remnant. If you went past that and you found a prodigious overhang of Pleistocene age with 80,000-year-old radiocarbon dates and artifacts and things in it, you'd be a hero. Instead, we don't know a dang thing about what's going on. So there's always a reason to go to the bottom.
Got it. Here's your lab.
Okay. Anybody else? I need to shut up.
Yeah, I do have quick comment. I'm gonna take a slightly different tack and sidestep the interpretation of the ordinance. And instead refer to your, I'm gonna go back to that one. Bear with me, Mike. I'm struggling to find that. Somewhere in your methodology, you say that you consider sterile to be 2 sterile levels, right, of 10 centimeters each. But when I refer to your actual test unit sketch, granted, I was, using your scale bar with my fingers and doing this, so not terribly accurate. But it looked to me like the only way you got to 2 sterile layers was by including the asphalt and the base course as layers. If that's so, I object to that. I think that 0 centimeters begins at the bottom of the base course, not the top of the asphalt.
Yeah, I heard that argument from Paul, and what I talked about was I've always measured from the present ground surface, no matter what that is. I mean, and what do you do with sod? What do you do with landscaping? I mean,
You take all that out. and
so
then
you're
start.
so you're saying always disregard what's on the surface.
No.
Yes, essentially. Well,
You
if it's imported like asphalt or base course, then you begin with the dirt. That's where you zero. It's not at the top of
Even if it's been modified, plowed, or
Cloud there starts at that surface.
I don't know if I would go
And
that
a
far
flat
to say that you can't use disturbed soil, but you certainly can't use asphalt or
No.
base course.
okay. This is the first I've heard. I mean, it was the first
That's
I
pretty
heard that
standard.
because I've done plenty of
Well, and
asphalt.
this issue has been lingering and has certainly occurred in the past. I think this is the first time it's been fully addressed.
Well,
So you probably did do it in the past and
it's news to me,
Yes, like-
and I appreciate the clarification. I mean, I'm happy to do that. Get off below the base course and then on
Yeah. So yeah, even if you find absolutely nothing in any of the layers, at a minimum, you need to be 20 centimeters below where the dirt starts, not the top of the asphalt.
Yeah, well, base course too.
Yeah, base course as well.
So I appreciate that seriously, that clarification, because it's never been discussed. I don't think we ever. Can I ask you, Karen, is that how?
Well, my first thought was, how can when I lived in these points in town, they truncated a cultural layer underneath, when they're depositing it. So I always treated it as strat, because sometimes I find artifacts from the cultural layer mixed in. So I will measure from the asphalt down, but whatever's required.
Well, I mean, to take it to its
Right.
logical extreme, what if the asphalt and the base course by themselves were more than 20 centimeters? You would never get to dirt at all.
Oh, no, and I don't do that.
And by the same logic, you cannot dig 2 levels in disturbed soil and say you've reached the bottom of what you need to excavate, because disturbed soil is not a demonstration of sterile.
Okay.
If there's 10 feet of disturbed soil, you gotta keep going to get down to the bottom. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt, but we need to get her name and address for a correct record.
Karen Whiting, 93 Washington Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Interjections get things out of order.
And you always include the base course and the asphalt in your profile.
Yes.
So that anybody, regardless of whether you count that, but that does not count.
Okay, well, as I said, I had never heard that discussion.
For point of clarification, do we need to make a motion to decline to hear this case, or is that
I
already
can
accomplished?
postpone it till the next meeting if you want.
That might be easier,
Yeah.
more familiar anyway. So I guess the applicant is requesting postponement of this case to the next meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, I can accomplish it.
Can pass.
Oh, sorry. I second.
Oh, I don't think that was a motion. Because it's
Oh,
made by-
Postpone.
Thank you, guys. Lisa said to tell you how long in the next 2 weeks.
Oh,
I was reading the report. It was just too busy. Sorry, but I think maybe what we should do, just to be sure, is to have a motion. Otherwise, Melissa may get upset with me.
Oh, sorry. Okay. In recognition of the request to postpone next meeting,
I make a motion that we postpone consideration of the case for the next meeting.
I second.
moved and seconded, roll call vote.
Member Pierce,
Yes.
member Wands.
Yeah.
Member Bechtel,
Yes. Yes.
motion has been passed
It's
with
now sufficient.
Thank you.
withdrawn.
Case number 2023-6863, OAS agent for High Five LLC requests approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for boring of 1,100 feet of subsurface fiber optic line from Llano Street. It's Llano in Texas. Aspen Drive to 1700 St. Michael's Drive and Suburban Archaeological Review District. Thank you for the staff report. Paul, anything to add?
Chair, no, sir.
Thank you. Karen, you're already sworn in, so hold forth if there's something we need to know.
All right, there are a few things that I'd like to correct. Thank you, Chair. I have corrections on 3 pages. The first one is page 19. The caption reads that it's the fund that they gave for the Vegas grant, and it's not. It's the fund on Antonio Flores grant. So that needs to be corrected. On page 20. The 4th line down, Pinos has 2 periods. And on page 22, about 2/3 of the way down, on the left-hand side, I reference the College of Santa Fe. I say by the time the 1948 image was taken, the College of Santa Fe had been established on the site, but it was St. Michael's College at that point, so that needs to be corrected. And I think this correction is already in another document. And that's what I found.
All right. Thank you. Number 1. Number 2.
Yeah, just one, and it's a positive comment. On page 31. Oops. I think it's like the beginning of the 3rd line there, where you say potholes are poorly suited for meaningful good observations. And you would prefer not to monitor those. Yeah, I concur. There's no point in screening soup through a screen, you know, so I think that in future you don't have to ask permission, just assume the potholes are not part of a monitoring project.
Okay.
You never know when you do
Yeah.
it, so.
Do you think we should just eliminate that from our methodology then?
Well,
It could be nuanced. They might start a pothole and then encounter difficulty and whip out a shovel and start digging more. Yeah. So you gotta be there anyway, even though it's.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll, if they can't find it in one place, they keep moving over, and the next thing you know, you've got a good sized little pit in there. So I usually shoot those, at least if I've been watching their GPS.
Yeah.
Straight to it.
I always stood there and watched, even though I knew I was never gonna say anything.
Well, yeah, I guess it's better to do the crossword puzzle while you wait for
Right, and
something else.
it's just compulsion, I think, like, it's like, well, I know there's not gonna be anything right here, but I can tell.
So
I'm gonna watch anyway.
But yeah, fair point, sometimes they change, they start hand excavating.
Yes.
So, yeah, there, you would want to monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I have.
All right, remember that.
I loved all the maps and photographs. Thank you. I would say I did the Bronze Army Hospital HICPIs or the HABs reports for the state, and the New Mexico or the Federal Atomic Energy Commission also used that train track. So it wasn't just for Bruns, but they were taking supplies up to Los Alamos during that time. And so, and then after it was sold, the Atomic Energy Commission actually owned their route to Cerrillos Road from those Quonset hut buildings that have been torn down. They were the train stopped. So they actually, if you look at some of the old plats of the Bruns Army Hospital, you'll see that those tracks, the Atomic Energy Commission owned a way to get from those tracks to Cerrillos Road. So, anyway, it was interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. So every time I saw it, you said Bruns Army, it's like, and the Atomic Energy.
That's not the first time I've come. We learned something on your first night.
Yeah. So anyway, that was there's some really great plats that all my reports are at the state archives somewhere.
Okay,
But it's about the Bruns Army Hospital. Okay. It was a demolition mitigation that we did.
Okay, I would love to copy about it. So I mean, it should get from you, or
you can. They're huge files because we did and then the photography. I could certainly figure out how to get it to you. Okay. That would be yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. I've only got one little flag in here, and it's a question. Under field methods. To the extent possible, the intended survey of exposed surface everywhere in the project area.
I'll add that.
It's become your standard, but it just didn't get mentioned.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let me just do this.
That's correcting and actually not be any
sediment.
No, nothing any. That's covered in gravel that they brought in.
Well, if it's all covered, never mind. But
yeah,
I do not. We can have a motion.
Do we have corrections or just questions?
Just the question. Okay.
Well, atomic energy.
Well, and every atomic energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call it a correction. Or yeah, suggestion. Yeah. Okay, then I move we approve this.
It's a correction because that's the Bruns Army Hospital is not the only people that use that track.
Right.
And that says it very definitively more than once that they were the ones that used that track.
Yeah, so
Correction.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Then I move that we approve case 6863 on archaeological monitoring plan for Comcast conduit at 1700 St. Michael Drive with the requested correction regarding the tracks and ownership there, use of.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Member Pierce?
Aye.
Member Wands?
Aye.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Motion has passed.
Okay, case number 2023-6871. OAS, agent for the City of Santa Fe Public Utilities Department to request approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for trench excavation and installation of 997 feet of utility sewer main on the lines in the suburban archaeological review district. Thank you for your staff support, Paul. Anything to add?
Yes, Chair. This is Stephen Gilbert's project for the Water Division with OAS. So OAS, it should have been, I don't know if OAS should have been an agent or Stephen Gilbert. So in this, because they're a team, yeah. So it's, I put them together, although this is Stephen Gilbert's project. That's why.
We put something on the cover page then? For that, should we acknowledge that in the cover page or in the info somehow?
I don't think so. I think your cover page is fine.
Okay.
Your co-authors.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean,
More than sufficient. Identify the teamwork. So you have the floor, Steve.
Stephen Gilbert, 12220 Kingdom Place, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87112. I have 10 corrections that I found that I would like to bring to the table. The first of which is on the cover page. It says July 6th, and I'm 1 month early. It should be June 1st. That's next month's meeting, so I've got it done on time. Page one of the actual body of the thing under project specifications, excuse me. The last sentence there, tie-ins, has a weird space. It shouldn't have that space. Let's see. We jump to page 8 under soils. That first paragraph has the completely wrong percentages next to all those different types of soil, and it does not add up. It adds up to like 103%. But it is correct in the body there. Like the individual paragraphs themselves, those percentages do add up to 100%. Just this top part didn't get changed to match that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay. The next page, figure 7. You can't see any of the numbers on my map that show what the different soil designations are, really. And so I'll fix that. Page 18 under archaeological activities, that first paragraph, almost the last word, presented in, is missing space. Further down below the table, the paragraph that starts this site, LA 79942, in the call out for the reference after Bicklin 1990, there's an extra errand. On page 19, under arroyos and acequias, the very second to last line there, auto-corrected, it should say des aguas, not dea aguas, I believe. On page 20, the heading that says USGS topographic maps 1889 and 1892, that actually should say 1894, 1892 and 1894. Page 21, there's a formatting error. This first paragraph, that last line needs to be not the last line. And the last one on page 26, under Google Earth Image 2003, the very last sentence should now link the Santa Fe Place Mall and many other areas, not add on other areas. And that is all I have. I apologize for the numerous amount.
No problem. You're on it. Committee members, member Baxter.
I have a question about the airport. In the previous aerial photographs, Ashley Pond Airport was mentioned, and then it's mentioned here in a different parts. Is that correct?
Could you be more specific about where it's mentioned in the place?
Now I'm trying to find so it's one of the early photographs of the
Probably because there actually were 2.
Ashley Pond.
Yeah.
Because you say Ashley Pond Field abandoned on in 1936.
So the
On
eastern
page 21 in the previous, and then here we say Ashley Pond Field, but then it's in this location.
So the easternmost field was formerly known as Ashley Pond Airport, but the one on the westernmost at current Cerritos and Airport Road intersection was informally known as Ashley Pond Field for a short time. And people were asking that it be named after him formally, but it never happened. So it just ended up becoming Ford Field. Again, not formally, because he was the one who ran it for so long. So, but it's worth clarifying in the text, yeah, because
they're not the same.
Even the airports.
I started thinking, well, Santa Fe shrink, and I just
yeah, it was very confusing researching it too.
And I want to give a big thanks to Karen for that research. It's spectacular. Okay, I've got that noted, and we will figure out a way to make that
Thank you.
clearer.
And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting project, but, you're not anticipating to find anything from the airplane days. Or
I think at the monitoring expectations, it did say that there are possibilities in the southern part of our project where it bumps up against, I can't remember what that is, coming up in Entrada maybe. I did write that there's possibilities that we might find evidence of some of the repaving and different various surfaces that may have comprised landing runways is what I find. Landing areas for runways is what we call
Because they work those things so much. So I did get a scrap of Jaguar Drive that I thought might be related to the repeated blading, grinding down, leveling of those runways. So we thought it might happen here too.
And I did reference that Jaguar Drive work in here, so.
Okay, that's all. I mean, it's the 1936 photograph shows how close you are to the river and when this fields and what might happen there. Yeah. Thank you.
Number one. Nothing from number two.
Yeah, just a few clarifications. There we go. It's mentioned several places in the report, so I take it to be true, but just to confirm, the target depth here is 8 to 10 feet?
Yes.
That's great. That's exciting.
That is exciting.
Most of the trenches we see here don't go below 4 feet. And we don't know if that's enough.
The water division for the most part doesn't go below 4 feet, but we're doing this as a favor to wastewater, and wastewater goes way deeper. And so that should be exciting. Sadly, I don't think there's a whole lot out there that way, but yeah, and maybe this would be a good time to just mention, my reports always include that little soil section. And pretty much every soil section I've done, the depth of the water table is about 80 centimeters. And so I agree that 30 centimeters might be a little shallow for, I mean, the difference between 80 and 30 is quite a bit. So just noting that.
And the only other comment I had is on page 38. It is the second sentence under your field method. It reads, if cultural deposits are present, a profile will be drawn to record these deposits. Just to be clear, we do expect some profile drawings, even if you find out if there are no cultural deposits, we still at least a few represented.
Of course, there has been several negative projects that we have done since I've come on that we do have plenty of profile pictures and soil descriptions.
I do that
examples for
so. Standard operating procedure, but just that sentence made it sound like you would only record.
That sentence almost makes it seem like we won't do anything other than profile. So I want to make it clear that if there are cultural deposits, we're going to do the whole 9 yards, not just in profile.
Change that in our boilerplate.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the only thing I've got is another one of my nitpickers. Page 1.
Oh no.
Paragraph on physical environment and historical background. The last reference.
That's always that Steve.
A.
Yeah, it should be A. Should be A, but I forgot to. That's like using the wrong template.
It's there and in the references cited the same way.
Okay, I will fix that. I had fixed that before in other reports. Yes, I'm sure Stephen Davis will be happy to know.
All right. Motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve case 6871, archaeological monitoring plan for utility main on the way to Valencia, with the requested corrections to the text and some clarification on the various incarnations of the airport.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Pierce?
Yes.
Member Wands?
Yes.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Motion has passed.
Aaron. Case number 2023-6868. OAS Agent for Lake Connection LLC requests approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for trench excavation and boring of 13,660 subsurface and aerial fiber optic lines from Siler Road and Alacrita Street to West Alameda Street, Cayano Plow, and Paseo de las Vistas and the River and Trails Archaeological Review District. Something all over the place. Thank you for the staff report, Paul, anything to change?
Thank you, Chair Eckler, sir.
All right. Karen, what do we need to know?
Thank you, Chairman. The first page, the date needs to be changed to the June 1st meeting. This was originally submitted for May, so I'll change that. The next one's on page 14. Under about halfway down, Nimcris 25508. The second line, Santa Fe River, the river needs to be capitalized. On page 15, under Nimcris 39070, the fifth line down, just to match the format of the rest of the sites in here, there should be parentheses around homestead with irrigation canal and gates, just to match the format of the rest of the cultural resources listed there. On page 16, under Nimcris 61452, there's just the period is fourth line down. Scatter has a period after it, and that should be struck. And then Nimcris 67126, there just needs to be, on the second sentence on the far right, there needs to be a space between LA 180517 and the survey. Toward the bottom of the same page 16, Nimcris 100723, after northwest quadrant, there are again 2 periods. And for this next page, I made a correction for Nimcris 130753. There's no description of the cultural resources associated with that activity. So I thought it was easiest to just put it on a sheet to hand out to you, because that will be that'll be inserted to include the 2 sites that were found during that activity.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
On Nimcris 139905, the very end of that, there's another double period. And on page 18, another double period after LA 181379, about halfway through that section, after 50 centimeter intervals, there are 2 periods. And another double period, so I was really enjoying that. LA 17019, next to the last sentence after drive, there's 2 periods. On page 20, NIM LA 187893, the very end of that has a comma instead of a period. And on page 34, the last one, the first sentence, the built environment has greatly intensified by 1996. So, EY. And that's everything I found.
Okay. Committee members, number 1.
I have a question about the entirety of the project team board and whether there would be a full pedestrian survey, because most of that area obviously is open. I mean, other than West Alameda.
Okay, so do you think we should survey in the area where we're going to put in aerial conduit as well?
I would.
Okay.
I surveyed the entire open space up there between where the used park is and the way out to 500. And I used to live over there. There's sites all those side streets.
Okay. I'll add that to methods. Like I said, we're going to do a survey first. Okay. All right.
That's all.
I kind of had questions about the probability. What does that mean?
The concern. Really.
That given the area that my entire thing is gonna be bored, is it concerned because there is potential for sites out there and very excited.
Once again, the bore pits are going to be their first line of defense.
Yeah, that and I think the pedestrian survey. I mean, I realize that you're only gonna have the right of way because most people out there are not gonna want you putting stakes on their property. So you will have the right of way and kind of like anything that's owned by the county or whatever. But,
So should we let the client know that recommendations for boring versus trenching might change based on that survey?
Yeah, if you encounter a significant site on the surface, then yeah, I think that would probably change the favorite approach.
So we should probably come back next month to with that report.
I mean, unless we say, that trenching will occur within a specified distance of the site on this side, outside the site boundaries and for 100 feet or something. They will trench each other. I don't know how else to do it so they don't have to come back. But.
I know this isn't usually how it's big different work first between the survey and the forfeits, but I also know you can't do that because then you have open units on where and you can't leave those open.
Yeah, so
that
if we do a survey, we make maps of all sites. The problem with this report is they didn't give us bore pit locations. And so I emailed and said, well, where are they? And he said, well, they're about every 400 or 500 feet. So I just did the math and that's how I came up with the number. So they did not give us locations. I can press on that to get those done. And then that way we'll know after the survey exactly how close they could be to the site. Does that seem like a way to go?
Yep.
Okay.
What?
All right.
What's your bet?
We'll do that.
Can we ask them to do bore pits closer than that?
We have asked for that in the past.
Really?
Yeah. Just only look below modern whatever is in the bore pits. We ask them to do more so we have a better sample of the universe. This is for fiber optic in the southern part of the city.
Yeah, I vaguely recall some cases where the bore pits were going to be like 2,000 feet apart.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not put a couple more in the middle. This is a little different scenario, but I think there's still precedent for asking for additional pits where your professional judgment needs them warranted.
Okay. And I'm sure that, so just that set of pits for avoidance, as often as in every case.
Yeah.
And if they may make for kind of an odd pattern for them, but I'm sure they'd rather do that than have us do
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly to begin with, no bore pit in the middle of an allowed site.
Yeah.
They got to move it or mitigate it if that's the case.
Okay. Okay.
The only other thing I would add is that during that survey, even if you come across a site with probably significant, at least confirming location that, Nimquist map plots can do that a little bit. So if you do nothing else, a little two things out there with the say this, it shows here, but we found it here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I got it.
Yes. Alrighty.
So we were review your guns. Number back on.
I'm gonna ask stupid questions again. So on the aerial photographs, I can't really tell where the road is, the new, the Ridge Road. Is that the Ridge Road right there? Cause that's the road you're going along, right? You're going. You're coming down Cuyahoga Fall, you're going along the ridge, and then you're coming down Siler, or you're.
Well, Siler will be,
you're going along West Alameda.
yeah, well, West Alameda is all aerial conduit, all aerial. I mean,
that's gonna be aerial.
So hopefully you get ground disturbance in that area. I mean, and they seem certain about that. I mean, the reason
that ground surface or you don't have enough ground surface on that area that people.
Okay, because of the slope and the rocks.
So the rocks, that's all Santa Fe gravels. It's all just as you know, there's a hole in the ground and then we're gonna shut down.
That's the point. All right. So is the one, which figure are you looking at?
Well, I mean, 19, let's see, what's this one, 53. And I'm just wanting to get in my brain where so I see the cell tower, and then where it cross the earth.
Page 30.
So the cross, oh, sorry, I could have said that. But from page 4, you have the subsurface conduit that's going from the cell tower at a diagonal. Is that on a road? It's there already?
Yes, now there is. I usually don't put the roads in, project them on aerials, just because I'm trying not to obscure features on the photograph.
Yeah,
but that could certainly be done.
Maybe just really lightly.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, just so I could. I'm just curious.
So you know exactly where it is.
Even just on one of them. And then Cuyahoga Fall is kind of on this map or this aerial. You know, West Alameda obviously is, and then I guess Siler, I can probably find Siler down there. Find Siler's up here. And but you call out Siler later. It was really the one from the cell tower over and to Cuyahoga Fall. Just
so that would need to be done for a few. You know, most of them really, because those feet were so late, you know. Yeah, certainly for 53, 54, and 60, and 64 plus 67. We couldn't take on, that would be
okay.
An easy fix. Yeah.
I'm curious. And then the other so it's not even sort of relevant to, except that you mentioned it so many times with the ditches. There are also springs in the river in this area. I think that's where all the dark vegetation is, and all the aerial photographs. And I've had people that have grown up here talk about swimming in these springs that are, you know, gone now, of course, but at the time, you know, he's my age, I think. So in the 60s, there were springs, or 70s that they could swim in, that they're pretty much, they had water in them all the time. And so since you mentioned all the ditches, I mean, I know it's on the other side of the river, pretty much what you're talking about, but anyway, just thought that might be an interesting, if you can find where the springs might be, or they were behind the Boylan property. That's when it all came up. Was Hilario Romero's grandfather or uncle or somebody owned that property, and as a kid they would go back there.
So I wonder if Tower Play was PhD might have spring locations that far west.
I know, probably at San Isidro Crossing where LA2 was, there was a cold water spring there as well.
Okay.
So I know if you can pull one of those reports, you might be able to find out things on the springs. They discuss, that's why they called it the cold water. Was because it wasn't springs.
I know isn't right. I think that's all I had was, just wanting to understand the route. Because on the aerial photograph, I couldn't really follow it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's easy to do.
Actually, if we put Lucas, you put the being triple map on, it will be aerials with, you'll see the view and do with labeling.
Okay, thanks. So that will help me understand.
Well, I planted in most of my comments during the launch time, but the only other thing I would, I guess, ask a clarification on, I think I already know this, but where they are doing aerial conduit, they are using existing poles, right? Not putting a new pole.
Yeah, we put charity several times on.
Because they were ordering in new poles is one line.
Yes, we were quite clear about that.
Very good. That's all I have.
But I think it's a good idea to have somebody out there just ask one more time. Just to be sure. Okay.
I have nothing to bring up, so we don't have a motion.
All right, the chair, I move we approve case 6868, archaeological monitoring plan for subsurface and aerial conduit and fiber optic line in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with corrections and clarifications of the text.
Very good, seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Bechtel?
Yes.
Member Wands?
Yes.
Member Pierce?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Of course, the secret letter, thank you guys also. Administrative matters and communication.
Oh, Chair Eck, committee members, after review of Ron's project, I think we came back with staff and said this never happened before. It's like going through, maybe it hasn't, maybe it has. But knowing what the ARC is looking for and what staff is our job as staff for the city. And reviewing the projects, we're going to be a little more diligent, and the work that's being done, we're going to be better at it, better, more diligent, as best we can. And that's I think that's it on that.
Yeah, what did you have to say?
Sorry.
Okay. The concern is that Paul brought this to my attention, and you know how with other boards, planning commission, H board, and so on, we have to know that there's a complete application. And in this review, if certain things aren't addressed, I feel that Paul should be empowered to say, no, we're not going to take this to the ARC because it's not sufficient. And then I had a long conversation with Ron Winters about present surface versus, you know, below base course as counting as the surface. And, you know, I agree with Paul that, yeah, you wouldn't count asphalt really. So, so anyway, we seemed to come to some form of agreement when he talked to me, but it obviously didn't happen. So, you know, I just,
this comes up every single, you can look at my big mouth in every one of these meetings fighting about what sterile is, and that these units are not excavated to what they need to be.
With him or just anyone?
With him.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is the
because
very
everybody
rarely
else
other people
excavates.
but he's consistently too soon to stop. Too short on description.
Short on the amount of excavation.
Yeah.
so I think there was less of a level of confidence previously because we didn't have a professional archaeologist on staff, but I would like to get direction from the ARC on if Paul finds that something is not addressed appropriately, that we consider the application not complete. And unless they create a big stink, then we will bring it to you, but we will use that format where we do not recommend approval.
I went for it.
Okay.
I get tired of hearing myself say,
Is there,
this is not sterile.
just out of curiosity, is there anything in the code about an appeal process if your division turns the applicant down?
So in the code, it's referred to as the land use director. So it's a director decision, although it's delegated to Paul. So, and that's appealable to the ARC, and then which is then appealable to the governing body, to the council.
Is it like a formal process though, or would it have to?
So with the land use director, it's not necessarily because he's not rendering a decision on the case itself, just the components of the case.
Right.
So that would not be formal. But if he were to do an administrative decision, which, you know, it's not really empowered to do in this particular case, or in archaeological reports and so on, then that would be appealable. So for instance, if in historic, I were to give an administrative decision for a change in design, a slight change in design or what have you, and somebody didn't agree with that, then that would be appealable. So, but when it comes to the contents of a report not being there, that's more informal.
Got it. Well, I think in this case, now that you know where we stand, pretty solid footing to say, you know what, I can take this to the council if you want me to, but we all know what they're going to say, right? So we don't waste our time. Essentially, I mean, that's the message. You know, you're pretty certain, then odds are that we're going to agree. Now that you know where we all fall on the same issue, so.
And it's a conservative position.
Yeah.
In the true sense, not the political sense. We do not want to be forced to take action without the information necessary. We do not want to dismiss a cultural resource without the documentation necessary for its configuration and consideration. And liberal.
Well, we also do not want to spend our time reviewing a case on the outcome that's already pretty much predetermined. Right. So, this meeting could have been so a little bit shorter.
And it's a constant thing.
Yeah.
It's bad archaeology for the city.
It is. Yes. And yeah, I appreciate the fact that you're making note of that and putting the effort into screening it before it comes to us.
And once you clear a parcel, that's it, it's cleared. You don't get to, unless somebody hits a burial, you don't get to say, oh, there was that there. That parcel is cleared. That's why it's 2% of the parcel.
Right.
And on that note, I know Sharek and I've talked about, you know, the code updates. And he had a lot of input for our consultant. And so what we're trying to do now is sort of parse out what will be in phase 1 versus phase 2. And so maybe in order to better identify that in the next couple of months, I don't think we'd be ready by next month, but we will sort of revisit what was proposed in 2014. Sharek, I think, mentioned that was done at that time, and sort of review it and determine whether is that the direction we want to take or not, because I think this is sort of a low-hanging fruit type of item that can be addressed in the first phase. Okay, great, we'll do that.
Okay, what is next?
I have an item before you move on. It's in regards to the calendar. So now that we have more members, are we going to go to 2 meetings a month? Or would you guys be interested in doing the second and fourth Thursday of the month instead of the first and third, so we can have an available stenographer?
So I came on this committee thinking you only met once a month. So if you go to 2 months, 2 times a week or 2 times a month, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to stick around.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your input. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we moved it to one.
We
We moved it to once a month because we were limited on members and we couldn't have quorum for two. So if you are not able to, there goes that thought. So would any of you be interested in doing the second
Or the fourth.
or the fourth, just so it doesn't conflict with the planning commission date, and we can have a Melissa for the entire meeting.
Although, you know, we've been able to cover for it and just swear everybody in before she leaves. So that's a option that's available to us now. So, but it's, you know, certainly.
I don't think I have any preference on which Thursday the one that is, as long as I know ahead of time. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I hate to preempt the conversation about the twice a month versus once a month. I mean, if y'all think twice a month is better for shorter meetings, then
I think on average, it's not necessary. There are cases, but let's do it case by case. You know, if you see the agenda is starting to stack up to something like it was tonight, then maybe.
And I think it was only this long because we didn't have a name.
Right.
So I think the future, I think we'll be okay with just one. So we'll go ahead and is the another Thursday work for everybody else as well?
I have no preference. It's really.
This one?
Other than next month.
Yeah, so
I
next
have
month will next month
existing-
will certainly be the same
Okay.
because we would have to, you know, get the new
And
calendars and work with the clerk's office and everything.
That's. Sorry.
so you're saying that the second Thursday of every of a month would be as sort of an ad hoc. As needed.
It would now change.
Okay.
Well,
the
first meeting would be on the
Whichever it
first, the
is.
second.
Yeah.
If situation warranted, if they were slammed with lots of cases, then they would also do the fourth month of
Got it.
the fourth Thursday of the month, excuse me.
If needed.
If
Okay.
needed. But yeah, I think let's keep it on if needed rather than just planning for it every time, because otherwise we might be having those second meetings with like one case.
Right,
right.
So we'll leave the second hearing as needed and we will talk with the clerk's office and Melissa, and I will email you guys in regards to a final schedule. But as for July, the meeting will be as if written, which is, I believe, the 6th.
Yes. July.
Is that correct?
So July 4th is a Tuesday this year? Is that correct?
I believe
Yes.
so.
Because I would definitely take a long weekend, but it sounds like it will be the weekend before and then the whole weekend of.
Yes.
July 6th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and with the planning commission, we really try to keep it to one a month because that's their express desire and we've been able to do it. So I would imagine with the archaeological review committee, we would do that as well.
Yeah, 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in recent memory, we've only had to do the second meeting like twice, maybe in the last 2 years. So it's rare. It doesn't happen that often.
That is awesome.
And welcome to Gala.
Yes.
You've had great input. Yeah.
Speaking of scheduling, having a fourth member is such a relief that, you know,
Yeah.
if something comes up, one of us can.
Go. Three is a quorum.
Yeah, we're at the forum.
So they seem to like getting COVID often, so.
Oh, no.
Matters from committee members.
So, I'm kind of speaking out of turn,
Okay.
but, so, well, first things there's the new NIMCRA system. You know, a lot of people who come before the ARC don't ever actually enter any of their information into NIMCRA. I'd like to request that, since you have access, Paul, you check and make sure they have entered their information into NIMCRA. And then I don't know if we wanna discuss it more, like registering things as surveys, or should I just do that?
Well, we don't have to come to the conclusion tonight, but I guess the point that we're getting to struggle with is how you depict these monitors on the map so that they're visible and known to the next person. Typically, we don't display monitors because they're not for discovery, they're for avoiding, right? With Santa Fe, it's a little different. They're doing monitoring for the purpose of discovery of sites, just like a survey. So we are thinking of treating monitors as if they were surveys, meaning making them visible on the map. But that
just for Santa.
Yeah, there are some constraints built in the system. So we might need people to actually call it a survey when they register the project. Even though it's technically a monitor because it's for purposes of discovery, we're treating it as if it was a survey. I mean, granted, it's a survey that's, 2 feet wide, but we still would like to put it on the map so that they don't keep doing the same trench over and over and over again. So,
I don't know if you guys are seeing, I know we're getting the reports that go through HPE. I don't know that we're getting the ones that just go through here.
Yeah,
so
that
if
has been hit or
people,
miss in the past.
yeah, so and if people are not putting sites they've discovered in trenches into the system, those sites don't exist, and if we don't have the reports, then they really don't exist. So kind of
the example earlier of the Winters report that Tommy needed to know about. If you know that it happened and you search, you can find an activity number. But that's it. There's nothing on the map server. There's no boundary showing this is where Ron put his trenches within this boundary. The detail of where they are is lost, but that's not there. And the report itself is not there. So if I hadn't said something and nobody else said anything, she would have gone out there with absolutely no idea that he already trenched the hell out of that area and found numerous architectural features. So it needs to get in there somehow.
because even if you're even if you put it as monitoring, you can say you found a site and you can put your actual rectangle of site that you found in this, even under a monitoring project.
Well, and I guess the point to convey is that while we can and will eventually put it in, so can the applicant.
Yeah.
They have the access on, Leonard could put that geometry in himself. And that's usually what we require on a state project, is that the applicant put that information in it. The user contributed system.
Yeah.
So
and
encouraging them to use it would be helpful.
And all activity in the city requires that people have state permits. And the requirement of state permit is that you do what the state says you gotta do in terms of filing stuff, and there you go.
And I actually just reread the state regs the other day, and it actually specifically says you have to submit it digitally and you have to put your GIS in. It's a requirement, but it's not, because a lot of people want to be like, no, that's not, but it actually says digital and.
Someday in my
That's why we can bring this up.
all the things that we've done in Santa Fe and identify what's missing, because some things are missing. And then I'll have to ask them to open it up so I can edit the darn thing, because it's been closed forever, and actually provide the shape files that should be there. But it was submitted as paper through the city, and the paper never made it there. So there's nobody over there who's going to take the paper and digitize it, and has ancient history. It really needs me to do the shapefile. Otherwise, it's probably never going to get there because the paper disappeared. The paper does not exist over there, right? And it should.
We had started a cleanup project for the city of Santa Fe, and then we got shut down for COVID. Because of how things work with that, as you clean up one thing, you need to pull 10 different reports, and there was no way I could do that from home, because it was like, it's like Pandora's box, so every time you adjust this survey line, then it's like, oh, no, I have to go pull this report to see this. So,
But we are re-engaging the
I
fact
have-
to go backwards, even into the 90s and 80s, but to do whatever we can, just the things that didn't make any sense back then.
Yeah, we do have electronic copies. We've scanned everything from the 90s and
Okay.
how far back does that go? Do you know?
you
I
guys
don't.
did have everything.
We have-
scanned.
Yeah, I think we have it scanned and we still have the paper copies, but I'm not sure the dates of what they are.
Okay,
I can get
well,
with Lanny.
just know that that's a resource and
Yeah.
yeah.
They, all those, at least for downtown Santa Fe, every single one of those reports from the start had been scanned.
Oh, okay.
So they.
And it's supposed to be identifiable in the city's GIS.
It's supposed to be, but I would assume that there is someplace else where at least those documents are. Even if nobody else can do the other,
Right.
get to the other things.
But you ought to be able to at least use, say, his internal GIS as an index. You can find out what you're looking for. Working on it.
Yeah.
As are we,
Yes.
long haul, but we'll get there one day.
Amending the call.
Good start at the end, so slowly we will get there.
Well, one other matter from the committee, member Pearson getting very, very hungry.
Yes.
Yes.
I second.
Mm.
I don't have any matters to raise, so we're gonna make a motion.
Tara, we're gonna adjourn.
That's okay.
Roll call vote.
Member Pierce,
Yes.
member Wands. And member Bechtel.
Yes.
Motion is passed.
We
All right.
are adjourning. Wow. Let's go eat. Emily, I love it here.
Yeah.